Some children think garbage collectors have a great job. They get to be outside all day and ride around on the side of a truck. They pick up all sorts of things everywhere they stop. Children think garbage collectors can have anything they want from what they collect. Of course, the idea of wanting to be a garbage collector tends to fade with age. But I can't think of many other jobs that do so much obvious good for society in such a fast way. The importance of garbage collectors is easily seen when they go on strike. One of the reasons the garbage collector job appeals to children isn't so obvious. It relates to how casinos provide reinforcement to their customers. As a child views it, a garbage collector gets things or reinforcement all day long. Being paid for picking up all that stuff seems like an added bonus. About 30 years ago, I started writing my first book. I wrote about things I knew and was really interested in. It took me about 3 years of focused effort to write the first book. I had no publisher for the narrow interest topic, no prospects of one, and was told by many of my peers that I was wasting my time doing all that work. Everyone said I should use my time to enjoy myself. I never expected to make any money in that book, and the only motivation I had was that it was just something I simply had to do. I didn't really make any money from it, but it was immensely important in many ways. Some 30-plus books later, I understand this better. For the vast majority of authors, writing has to be an internal reward. It's long, hard work with no promise of any sort of payoff. Yet people do it, knowing what they are writing may never be read by anyone else. In sum, the things that really motivate you, things unrewarded by what other people typically see as a reward, are often related to your purpose. What seems really magical is when a person is paid to do something he or she says they'd probably do for free. Counselors are in an interesting position as it relates to internal rewards. First, because of the nature of the business of counseling, our failures are the people we tend to notice the most. Our failures return to us or to someone else who will certainly inform us about it. Successful clients tend to disappear, but even more interestingly, we typically never know what we did with a particular person, helped or not. Topping it off, counselors are generally very low paid. Hopefully, you aren't wondering why people would choose that profession. You should know that something else is going on. Many counselors are being guided by their purpose. There's one more thing I need to mention in this. I believe I would have made a good landscaper. I actually like mowing lawns, trimming, and cleaning up yards. I'll tell you why. It's because I can turn around and look at a freshly mowed lawn and see the results of my efforts immediately. It provides instant reinforcement. The same can't be said for writing books or counseling. I wish I could remember where I heard this next piece of wisdom, but I can't. In any event, someone wrote, "It's the least paid people who do you the most good." I've thought quite a bit about that, and I think it's true the vast majority of the time. I'd have quite a problem if my garbage wasn't picked up routinely. I know they make less money than the average worker does, but they do me a lot of good. When I go into stores, the employees I interact with tend to be clerks, and in all the places where I've worked, the least paid people did most of the work that customers noticed. Decades ago, I learned that there were particular people at businesses and agencies who were really important to know and develop friendly relations with. These people seemed to be lower paid people within these organizations. Included were receptionists, secretaries, shipping and mail clerks, supply people, security guards, and low-level managers. I'm not saying that higher-level people were less important, but the lower-level people really seemed to do the real work, and they knew where things were and how to get things done. They are also the people who interact the most with customers or clients. In all my jobs, I found that it didn't take much effort to be friendly and supportive with almost everybody else who worked there. I also found that being friendly was the smart thing to do. Basically, I came to see three key things as the most important factors in my jobs. The first was to have a complete understanding of the function of each agency or business I worked for. Second, I knew it was critical that I do what I was supposed to do in each job. This meant to be on time, follow rules and procedures, do the work, and solve problems rather than just point them out or produce them. The third key thing was to have a friendly, helpful attitude. Somewhere along the line, it became totally clear to me that there was a right way to treat people. Being friendly and understanding to others seemed not only a smart thing to do, but it seemed to be the correct and moral thing to do. Over a 40-year work history, I've been able to observe abusive supervisors, disgruntled workers, and tyrannical supervisors and business owners. But I've also been exposed to some of the best people in all sorts of jobs. In my first real job at age 16, I worked at a Tasty Freeze in Greenville, South Carolina. I made 75 cents an hour and all I could eat. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. I say that because the owner of the store was a wonderful man to work for, and I liked ice cream and hamburgers. I actually liked our customers and derived a lot of satisfaction when they specifically wanted me to prepare their orders. I made big hamburgers, and I always put too much of the soft ice cream on cones and joked with everyone. I made ice cream cones and sundaes based on what I'd want if I placed the order. The large ones were monsters. At first, the owner tried to get me to make them a bit smaller, but I always slipped back to making the bigger ones. Business at the store drastically increased, and the owner eventually told his other employees to make things as large as I did. I'm not suggesting that other businesses should do this. The profit margin on the ice cream was huge, and the increased business more than made up for the larger portions. When I finally quit to return to high school and play football, I was offered a raise of 10 cents an hour to stay there. It was tempting in some ways, but I couldn't stay. I can recall several other times when I declined promotions because I knew that a particular job just didn't fit my personality, goals, and purpose. I could make more money, but I knew that I wouldn't be happy. In the 1950s as a child, I spent a lot of time at my grandmother's house, and one thing that she did every Christmas was give her mail carrier and paperboy a gift. It was a book of candy lifesavers. Back then, it might have cost 50 cents or so, but her mailman and paperboy appreciated it, and she got good service. When my wife and I moved to our present home, we seemed to get a lot of misdirected mail. It was irritating, and I recall taking the misdirected mail to the post office and dropping it back into a delivery box. The mailman soon wrote a brief note to us and said he'd like us to leave misdirected mail in our box in front of the house. He and I had a friendly conversation one day, and I could see that his job was a lot tougher than I realized. Starting that year, I gave him a small gift of food each Christmas. I was really surprised when he started saying hello to us by name when he saw us walking in the neighborhood. Eventually, he told us we were about the only people who gave him anything. As far as the mail goes, it isn't possible to get better service than we do. While I don't want to take this example too far, there's an aspect to the mail carrier that many people don't think about. Here is a person who comes by your house every day. Seldom will a mail carrier hear about the mail that was delivered correctly, but he or she will hear about a customer complaint on misdirected mail. Lots of workers feel invisible and unappreciated. The only time they get noticed is when things go wrong. It might be smart to think about the invisible and unappreciated workers where you work. Employees who do their jobs correctly, have good attitudes, and are friendly to each other and customers can make most businesses run trouble-free. Such employees are an asset to not only the company or agency, but to each other, their customers, and society itself. I completely believe that the young fast food restaurant employee can help society by having a friendly attitude. Just as true, however, is the reverse. Bad attitudes, unfriendly employees, and poorly done jobs will quickly ruin a business or agency. The least paid employees can do you the most good, but they can also do you the most harm. All you have to do is think of a time that you had to deal with an unfriendly or incompetent salesperson to understand this. The worst times I've ever had in my work life relate to interactions with workers who had a bad attitude, were fundamentally unfriendly, and sometimes unable to do their actual job. The truth is that attitude and ability are equally important. Adequate training, appropriate support, and a genuine focus on mastering a particular job can help make the person competent in a job. But attitude is a bit more tricky. Attitude is a choice, and it takes conscious effort to change. There are a lot of reasons why some workers have bad attitudes and are fundamentally unfriendly. But the simplest explanation I've ever found for this seems to nearly always be the correct one. It's this: misery loves company. An unhappy, miserable person may not choose to change whatever is causing the problem, but there seems to be some solace in making others just as miserable. Cicero wrote that the comfort derived from the misery of others is slight, but that slight comfort is enough reinforcement for people to spread their misery. Assuming a particular person who has this problem will remain in his or her job, the only real solution to this is internal. Something has to happen within the miserable person. They have to first become aware of what they're doing and then choose a different way. In truth, people who have bad attitudes about work are nearly always aware of it, and they choose to continue with it. Why? Again, misery loves company. I've found that the best solution lies in an ongoing process of examining one's personal ethics. I prefer a simple two-part definition of personal ethics. 1, it's what the person believes is the right and wrong way to behave in specific situations. And 2, what the person actually does. Some people argue that a bad attitude is a mental thing, so behavior isn't the issue. But all attitudes are displayed through behavior: smiling, frowning, facial expressions, comments, voice inflections, and so on. I look at many of our negative attitudes and displays of negativity as a choice to carry personal garbage and spread it on others. They clutter our lives and give us unnecessary hassles. Changing behavior can change attitude.